Welcome to the Life Begins at Midlife podcast, where we pop the champagne to celebrate the unexplored joys and endless adventures that await us in the midlife. Flipping the script on what it means to hit those fabulous 40s, 50s, and beyond. Because here, we don't believe in midlife crises, only midlife revolutions. Reminding you that the only thing we're letting go of at midlife is the notion that it's all downhill from here. Nope, we're here to climb higher, dream bigger, and laugh louder. Each week, we'll dive into the myths, share the truths, and unlock the secrets to making the midlife years your best years yet. From rediscovering lost passions to embarking on new adventures, we're covering it all. Expect candid conversations with inspiring guests who've turned their midlife years into their most dynamic chapter yet. We're talking to everyone from entrepreneurs who've launched successful startups from their kitchen tables to adventurers who decided age is just a number when it comes to climbing mountains or sailing the seas. So if you've ever found yourself pondering, is this all there is? Or you're just eager to embrace the richness of midlife with both arms wide open, then you, my friend, are in the right place. Grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's show the world that life doesn't just begin at 20, it begins again at midlife. And remember, in the Life Begins at Midlife podcast, the only rule is to live confidently, love unconditionally, and laugh uncontrollably. Let's get started. So welcome to today's episode of Life Begins at Midlife. Today in the studio we have Rani, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about herself. So welcome, Rani. It's lovely to have you as a guest today.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. So Rani, tell the guests a little bit about, you mentioned before the show started about maybe your premenopause journey and early menopause. I think you mentioned that you had. So do you want to share a little bit more about about that?
Sure, yeah. So I came to having children late in life. So I actually didn't think that I was going to have kids. I was sort of like resolved that that was going to be that. Then I met this guy and he just changed everything. I was in my late 30s and it was like, oh, geez, we better get on with it. So we tried to have babies and I had so many miscarriages. It was very sad. They did a series of testing and found out I had something called antiphospholipid antibody syndrome, which was simply cured by baby aspirin. That's all I needed to take was baby aspirin, which thinned my blood, which allowed the little babies to live. So then I was able to have two beautiful children. I had my first at 39, my second at 42, and after about 6 months, I got my first period and that was it. The doors closed and menopause was upon me. I didn't even get a chance of really going through too much. So I ended up seeing a hormone specialist who saved my life. Like she really did. It wasn't about like just a regular doctor. This woman is a midlife health specialist, and that's what she did. So I've been on bioidentical hormone replacement for about 15 years now, and it truly did save my life. Yeah,
Gosh, just
yeah.
shows you, some people think, that, whatever happens to them is like the end, and you persevered and you went and had a look, for alternative options, and then ended up having two beautiful children. And would you have gone on to possibly have more children, or were you content with the two that you had?
We probably would have had more kids, but gosh, I'd pushed the envelope already. So we were really lucky. Like with my second with Luca, it was the doctors basically said, because I started having hiccups right after Max was born, and I started having hiccups, and the doctors were like, I don't, your eggs are getting old, lady. So I don't think that
That's a nice thing to be told. Hey, your
I
eggs
know,
getting
I
old.
know. So I did go and see other doctors. I mean, I think that's one thing that's worth telling people is that be your own health advocate at every part of your journey. Don't wait for the doctor. Don't take one doctor's piece of advice. Take your own journey into your hands and go see whoever you have to see to try to be your own advocate to push your own health forward. That was my biggest learning. So I did. I ended up going to a couple different doctors, and I didn't want intervention. So I didn't want HRT or anything like that, or I should say, I didn't want to have any kind of intervention for the actual fertility side. And so we did. We just tried one more time, and there he was, little miracle guy, and that was the end of it. So, yeah, yeah.
Oh well, but that's lovely. You've got two lovely healthy babies. Well, no, not a baby anymore, but you've got
Yeah, they feel like my babies. Well, now I'm 59, so at 59, having two teens. Well, my daughter now, she's 19, so she's turning 20. So they are getting a little bit older. My son's 16, but the other part of that is that it keeps me young. You know, we have so much fun, and it's pretty awesome being an older mom having teenagers. It keeps you on your toes. So that's
That's
kind of
it. I was talking to someone else the other day. You can be 25 and be
yeah,
old, or you can
yeah.
be, 59 and super young. It's just how you view life and how you want to live. Um,
Yeah, it's all about how you perceive yourself. Like, it never occurred to me. So this is like a mid-age thing for me, and sort of it's skipping ahead a little bit into kind of the workplace. But I never actually saw myself as anything else but Rani. I just saw myself as who I was as I progressed through my career. And then suddenly this ugly thing called ageism creeped into
oh
the
gosh,
picture,
yeah.
and I was so I didn't understand what was happening to begin with, because it didn't occur to me. It's like, I'm Rani, I have all these skills, I have all this education, this is what I have to offer. And then suddenly people were like, nope, we're not interested in you. You're getting old. It's like
It's the thing, they
very
don't look at you for who you are. They just almost seem to look at it and say, okay, this person, the sell-by date is nearly, it's like you
holiday.
a
Yes,
commodity
it
on
felt
the
that way.
grocery shelf. It's like your sell-by date's nearly up. Well, we're not going to spend time on her anymore. So, but they forget about that wealth of knowledge that they're missing out on.
It's the wisdom that's lacking in the I mean, there's so many books written about it, about what's happening with women, with midlife women being pushed out of the picture, in the sort of the professional workplace. Absolutely. It's pretty shocking. Yeah.
And do you think it's happening the same with men, or is it more so on the lines of women when they
I think
get?
it does. Ageism, I think, touches both genders, but I think predominantly women feel it more. I mean, there's still a huge equity balance between men and women with wage earning. It's the same with ageism in the workplace too. Yeah.
That's it, and I think
Mm.
you probably find that women who've had children have probably taken a bit of time outside of their career to be a mum, even if it
Mhm.
is just, your maternity leave or something like that. You still had that break, and
Mhm.
then to get back into it again, and you're still a mum, and you've got your thoughts on your children, or even though you're fully
Yeah.
present at work, but it's different, I think, to most men who can just go to work, switch off from family, and just focus completely on what they're doing, whereas a woman so juggling so many balls, I think. And then
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also the one thing that I found that I kind of did was I looked at my life and career as being more flexible, a little bit more bendy. So when I started experiencing ageism, once I figured out what it was, so I had a bunch of distinct, different kind of career kind of things. I guess in my trajectory, I had after I graduated from my first degree, I did about 10 years in the nonprofit in anthropology, archaeology, and museum studies, which was really cool. I did some really neat stuff. Then I went to Japan, and I lived in Japan, and I taught English for a while to pay off my first student loan. When I came back, this crazy thing called the internet was taking off.
oh
What's the
yes.
And so I ended up taking a master's degree in the business side of publishing, and digital being the new thing, which launched me into a career with building websites for large global companies like Nike. We were their first kind of digital. So I built big websites for Nike, Nintendo, McDonald's, this kind of thing. So that was kind of really, really cool. And that was around the time that I met my husband, which I was talking about before, when we ended up getting married. It's actually a great story for another time about Charles Barkley, who's this very famous athlete. We were doing his shoes, a shoe website for him. And the proposal happened at work. My husband flew me off on a plane, and it was all very dramatic.
Oh wow.
Anyway, that's a story for another time. But when I came back, we got married, and we started having miscarriages. Once I actually had Max, I realized that I didn't want to work like that anymore. I didn't want to travel. I didn't want the high paying job. I just had this bambino. And suddenly I just wanted to love my baby and I just wanted to stay home. So that set me off on a whole other and I didn't think about this. I didn't think that anybody would ever look at me different if I took a break. I really didn't. I just thought, okay,
It's
this
part
is
of
what I'm
life,
going to
isn't it?
do. Yeah, I'm going to look after my beautiful baby. Then when I tried to get back in after Luca was born, when I tried to get back into the workforce, it was no, 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 silence, all of this kind of stuff, and that was really shocking. So I I've been going through a period of reinvention, which I think is really important for women to consider. Again, kind of like being your own health advocate,
Mm.
reinvent yourself. You don't have to play by the rules that corporations tell you that you have to play by. You can create your own life and create your own world. So I created a dog services company. I retrained myself as a dog trainer, and I started up a dog services company. I ran that for about 7 years. I had employees and vans, and I hiked in the mountains, and that was all super cool.
So,
Um,
as in dog walking and dog grooming, or just the dog
No
walking?
grooming, no grooming, just the walking, the pet sitting. I had a puppy wellness program, a whole bunch of different
Oh,
things like that. It was super cool. So I got to play with beautiful animals for a while. And then I ended up moving. I wanted to do a flower shop. I'd never done a flower shop, so I got trained as a florist. See, this is what I'm saying is that you just
my
like,
goodness, yeah.
like
It's
put it out
very
there.
varied.
Yeah, you put it out to the universe and then you just do it. And so you create your own opportunity. And I didn't let it scare me. And it was a brick and mortar store, but I didn't let it scare me. I just sort of thought, start small, go find another shop, see if you can sell bouquets out of their shop, do some pop ups in front of their shop. Okay, now you've done that. Oh, now they invite you into their shop. Now you're sharing a corner of their shop. So you're not holding the lease. Like being creative and thinking outside of the box and making your own opportunities is pretty cool. So yeah, so I did a bunch of those different things, and I think that that's really I think it's key for midlife because I think with perimenopause and menopause and all of those changes which we don't talk about, right? Society does not talk about this stuff. So I think being your own advocate and creating your own opportunities in midlife is really, really important.
Absolutely, and not trying to fit into the box. I think it's allowing yourself to make your own version of a box, whatever that might look like. It might be a round box, it might be a funny shaped box for now, and each time it could be something different.
Or it could be a box that looks like an octopus because you keep on like,
Absolutely,
pushing your little tentacles out to try to reach for the next really cool thing. So,
absolutely.
but with that, I think that, I don't mean to be glib about it because there is still work involved and you still do need support. I mean, I think that, that's the other side of it, support from family, friends, that your partner, that kind of thing. Because it can be scary for the people around you. Change can be scary, especially when you're starting new things for other people. So of course, be strong for yourself, but there's always kind of that the other people around you who might be naysayers. For example, when I did the dog services company, my family thought I was a lunatic. They really did. They did not support me at all. They just thought I was crazy. You're throwing your master's degree away, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, gosh, that's really surprising. I'm actually being an entrepreneur and starting something new. But, and so those things do happen where family and friends and your partner might not support you, but staying true to yourself, I think, is key.
I think that's where it becomes quite difficult. Hey, when you are forging ahead on your own and you believe whatever it is that you believe is going to work, but
Yeah.
then you've got all these people around you who you kind of rely on for that support and that encouragement, and they coming with these, but, you know,
Their own
questions,
agenda.
maybe these comments and things like that, and then that's when you really realize how strong you are to
Mhm.
keep forging through and maybe creating a new support network with, you know, like-minded entrepreneurial businesswomen or things like
Yes.
that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, but it can be lonely and it can be hard and it can be confusing. But I think that just sort of sticking to the plan. I mean, it's your one precious life. It's your one precious life. And this is the time. Like I think that there's, midlife can be looked at a bunch of different ways. Often, and I don't like this at all. People call midlife a crisis. Gosh, I don't think about it as a crisis at all. It's like this amazing time where we have so many freedoms. I mean, I know that, our bodies are aging, we have new aches and pains, we're getting silver hair, we're getting wrinkles, we've got, these perimenopause, or we've been through menopause. So there's like the other side of it, which is kind of intimacy and, painful intercourse, like this kind of stuff, like that's all kind of there. But it's also an amazing time if you can kind of like shift that away and just really embrace it. It's freeing. You don't
Absolutely.
have to
Because
worry
you've
so
got all that
much.
experience as well. And for some reason, I found that you always have that. No, it's not a confidence because you've had confidence throughout your life, but it's this sort of inner knowing that, whatever you decide you're going to do and you put your mind to it, some reason, if it's meant to be, it'll work out,
Yeah.
and it's listening to that inner voice, that inner knowing, and going with that and trusting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the intuition part, something that we don't really talk too much about. Sometimes we do, but often I find that some people think that that's all kind of a little bit woohoo. But, if you think back to when you were younger, our intuition really, and even if thousands and thousands of years ago, our intuition is what, saved us from the saber-toothed tiger and all sorts of different things. I found that for myself, I was always super in tune to my intuition when I was younger, but as soon as I had kids, I don't know what happened. It was like a little switch went, and then suddenly I wasn't listening to that little voice. I wasn't taking heed. I wasn't paying attention to it anymore. So it's just been in the last little while since I've started my coaching business for working with women in midlife that I have found that I've found that switch and flicked it back on again. And so it's something that I talk about actually with people is like, how is your intuition? Are you connecting with that voice? Are you listening to yourself? Because I think that that little voice is the thing that will help us keep moving forward. If it's something like thinking about a business or and relationship issues, any of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think it's important for us to listen to that voice, and if we have been burying it, to allow that voice to resurface. And if we're not
Mhm.
sure how to do it, then find someone who can help us be able to reconnect with that inner knowing and that inner voice. 'Cause-
Yeah, and there's like books now. There's books written about intuition and connecting back to your intuition. So there are resources that you can look at as well that can sort of like tap into that kind of thing. Like, because I think that when you haven't thought about it for a while and you don't know what the feeling or you don't remember the feeling, it's nice actually. I love books, so I'm a voracious reader. So I will like if I'm exploring something, I'll think, oh my gosh, I need to read more about intuition, and then I'll do a deep dive and find some. So there are some really great books that you can read about that. Yeah.
So now
Yeah.
you mentioned a little bit about, your new venture. I don't know, it was not, maybe it's not new as in, a fresh venture, but there's a different venture because you've gone through through the dog business, you've gone through the flower business, and now you mentioned about coaching women. Do you want to tell
Oh,
us a little bit about that?
sure, yeah. So the flower shop was my passion. I loved my flower shop, but just before COVID, um, the street that I had my shop on was changing. So they were doing a lot of construction, hospital revitalization. The writing was on the wall that traffic was going to slow down. So I ended up closing my shop, and it just broke my heart. It took me so long to get over that. But after I did that, I wanted to do something more. And that's when I started really feeling the effects of ageism. I started applying for jobs. I started, doing all of that kind of stuff. Nobody would answer me back. Nobody would, invite me for interviews. It was shocking. I'd never had that happen before, ever in my life. And I thought, I can only bring more to the table. How is this happening? I ended up getting a job at a civic center, and I really did feel the pressures of ageism in that situation. I didn't get a job that I was way underqualified for, and it was hurtful and it was crushing for me. And I ended up coming home, and I think I went through a little bit of a bit of a bout of depression about it because I couldn't understand it. And so then I started thinking about coaching and helping people because I love helping people. That's just something I've always done. And so then I started thinking I could help other people go through this. I could help people understand what it is, why they're stuck, why they're feeling a lack of clarity, why they're, having issues with boundaries at work or boundaries with partners, all of these different things. And then specifically career related, on having a powerful resume and, beating the system, and getting your resume in, a powerful letter, interview skills, all of these kind of things. So I ended up doing a bunch of training. Concurrently, I actually was working at a hospice. I ended up working at a hospice for a couple of years, and I did a deep dive on learning about death, dying, grief, and bereavement. So that was quite interesting. And in the fall of just this past year of 2023, I was part time doing my coaching business, and then I decided that I would leave the hospice and work full time on the business. And so that's what I did. So starting in November of 2023, I jumped in and launched Live a Rebel Life is what it's called. So that's really what it's about. It's about, your midlife and you can live this rebel life. And so I've been working with midlife women all over the world. And we work on life stuff and we work on career stuff. And it's lovely. It's like the best feeling and the best thing. It's tapping into that thing that, you know when you wake up and you feel excited, I'm going to work with people and I'm going to help them. And it's an amazing, and it's reciprocal too, because there's the help goes both ways. I learn so much from the women that I work with. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing for the last, I don't know, what is that, 9 months, 8 or 9 months, full time now. So and it's been busy and exciting and different, and yeah.
I think that that's the thing as well. We need to remember that our career slash business and our life aren't two separate things. It's one, and
Mm,
it's all intertangled. And if the
yep.
one part is not great, like say for example, we can't get a job and go back into our career, our whole life is going to feel a mess as well. Even though it might not really be, but it's just all just intertangles and crosses over from one to the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that people forget that. There's like, oh, we've got life here in this bucket, and we've got career. Oh, it's over here in this bucket. And it's like, oh gosh, no, actually, those two things are like together.
Uh,
They are together in the same bucket. And especially, I think in midlife, I think by midlife, you're feeling it a lot more. Those two things, and it's harder to separate because you're not going to put up with what the BS that you put up with in the past. So I mean, that's one of the things that I work on is with the female clients that I work with is like, what in the past are you no longer going to put up with? Because there's a lot of it, but if you haven't really thought about it, it takes a while to figure out. I'm not going to put up with this nonsense anymore. What are the things that I really want to fill my bucket with? And those are over here. So let's focus on those things, and then you find the sweet spot between the two, which is
what
bridging
you
that gap.
focus on is what grows and becomes more. So if you keep focusing on the stuff you don't want, of course you get a bucket load full of that as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So it is important to
Yeah.
know what you're going to put up with because, like we said earlier on, we've only got one life, and if we're not living it to a full, we're going to get to a point where we're not going to have that energy to be able to live it, and we don't want to end up with regrets.
Yeah, regrets, and midlife is the best time to do it. Excuse me. It's the best time. You really can thrive. You can fly. You just have to somehow kind of get around some of the blocks and the barriers. One of the things that we work on a lot is limiting beliefs. So
Yeah.
the stories that we tell ourselves, and that narrative, that negative narrative, that monkey brain that gets into our heads that says all sorts of things that really are not true at all. Mindset, how can you have more of a resilient, fit mindset, sort of more on the positive, intelligent side. And when we don't think about those things and we get in our own kind of like swirl, it's really hard to see outside of that, and to start thinking about, oh, this is not me. Those negative voices, that's not me. And I remember going through that when I was hitting that, no, 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 and silence when nobody was answering me back, or I didn't get called back for the interview, or whatever. The world has changed so much. It seems so kind of rude now than from where it used to be.
Well, you used to
Um,
at least get this polite thing. Thank you very much for your application. You've not been successful this time. Whereas
yeah,
now it's just
yeah. Do
like,
you remember in the olden days they used to send you letters?
Yeah,
and the
exactly. Yeah,
old
I'm talking about
people,
those days where you got
right?
to collect it through the post. It's like,
Yeah, you get a letter in the
no, but
post
then it's
box.
going to be good news or bad news when you open this letter. It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
the trepidation, right? There's like oh, the hands are shaking. Now there's nothing. There's crickets. That's it.
absolutely.
There's crickets. It's a completely
But
different
I think
world.
people have just become a lot more rude, just in
Oh,
general. I think, because even if you go to the shops, I don't know what it is like where you are, but here, even the way people treat the customer service people and the way they just don't even acknowledge them sometimes, and you just think they're human beings. They're doing a job. If they weren't there, you wouldn't be able to do the grocery shopping that you'd be or currently doing. To just give them a smile and say thank you or ask them how they are. It costs nothing.
well, they're human just like we are. So one of the things that I've taught my kids is always kindness and helping first. And so when I go to a store and I see a clerk or I see, whatever, and they're always, they say it's a hard, long day and you're dealing with rude people. I always ask them first, how are they?
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
takes 30 seconds to
And you
do
and you
that.
see the whole face lights up. It's like,
Yeah, and
"This
there's a
is
connection.
it."
It's not like, "Hey, where can I find a peanut butter?" Right? Like, it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
It's more like, "Hi, how are you doing today?" Oh, and
Mm,
then yeah, you're right. The face changes, and then you have a connection. You've established rapport. You've made their day. They've been seen.
yeah,
Been
absolutely.
seen, and now they've been heard. And ask them a few questions, and then they're more than happy to show you where the peanut butter is.
Absolutely. Or even if you're not asking them for anything, you just, having a conversation while you're doing your checkout, at least they feel like they've been seen, or the security guy or anything like that. Just acknowledge their presence. There's so
But
many people
sometimes
walk past them like they don't even exist.
Yeah. Well, I sometimes wonder. I mean, this is a whole other conversation, but I sometimes wonder the anonymity of the digital world. I mean, I'm a huge pro technology person. Don't get me wrong, but I sometimes wonder about that. If how much it's changed the way we interact with people, because we can be anonymous. We can be anonymous on Facebook. We can be anonymous in all these different places, right? Um, and it's easy to sort of bully and stand behind these facades, and I think then it slips in to everyday life. And when
Mm,
everybody's doing it, I mean, gosh, just think about mobile phones, how much that's changed everything.
yeah.
How many there was a time not too long ago where we did not have mobile phones and we were actually connecting and having eye contact and asking the clerk, because we weren't glued to our phones, staring at our phone all the time, or going
Yeah.
out for a dinner and everybody's got their phone out, or at a
No,
cafe,
that's
everybody bus
my
stop,
head. I can't bear it. I'm just like, can we actually have a conversation, or we're all just going to
Yeah.
text each other while we're sitting around the table? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have
Maybe
a
maybe
rule.
I'm old fashioned, but I'm still like,
No,
get
I
your
don't think
phones
so. I think
away.
No, I think this is just about being human. I just think it's about being human, and it's also about awareness. So like at my house, I try to coach my family not to touch their phones until they have to go to work or school. So, for me, I don't unplug my phone. I leave it in the desk. We have like this old fashioned desk thing where we charge all of our phones. And so I leave it there. I force myself not to look at it. I know stuff's coming up. I know, like you and I were early on this podcast,
Mm,
but I knew that the night before I wasn't going to look at my phone until I jumped on here with you.
yeah.
And it keeps my head clear, and then I'm present and I'm focused on my kids. And, I've even had my 16-year-old son say to me, can you help me? Like, how can I keep my device away? It's like, keep
That's
it
it. It
plugged in,
just
buddy.
becomes so like part of you,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
and I
Well,
see
yeah.
my partner's got two children, two younger, they're younger teenagers,
Mm,
and they're making themselves something to eat, and they're watching something on their phone. It's like
yeah.
they're
Yeah.
eating while they watch. I'm
Yeah.
like, put the things down. It's not going to go anywhere. Enjoy your food. They look at me like I'm crawled out of some kind of, or from underneath a rock or something like that. But
Yeah,
it's
well, I mean, I guess that's also part of my point, is that I think it starts from such a young age. Like my kids grew up with these devices. We did not. You and I did not grow up with these, but my kids grew up with them, and your partner's kids grew up with these things. So this is just an extension of their life. But I think this is the beginning of the change in communication, in how we communicate and connect with people. The connections are severed because at a very young age, people are on these digital devices and they've already learned to have this. They're focused here inward. They're not focused
Yeah.
outward, right?
You don't
It's a big
even hear what's going on around them
challenge.
sometimes. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking,
And so I think it leaves it up to us in this generation to help educate and to help open younger people's eyes about it, you know? So, yeah.
I think sometimes we are in the minority because I think a lot of parents are thinking, thank goodness they're just distracted, don't have to worry about it. Whereas I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I miss the family dinners where we all, could all just sit around and have a conversation. Now we're no sooner finished eating and they're scattering already to go back to their devices. And I'm thinking, it's not life. Life is a
Yeah.
conversation like you and I are having. I know we're using, technology. We're different parts of the world, but we're still communicating and
Yeah.
mm, but
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. I think that there is a lazy factor to some parents. And, to be fair, it's exhausting. It's
yes,
exhausting to be a parent in this day and age. There's so many demands on us, especially if you're a mom, right? If you're a woman and you're raising your children and you're working, you're doing two full-time jobs plus plus, right? So I get that totally. It's sort of like, oh, thank God they can go and game for a while and I can just have a glass of wine and like check out. So I totally understand that, but I think that there's so much more opportunity when you can identify that moment and then try to figure out how you can change it, and starting with little tiny changes with the family and making little tiny rules or suggestions. And
yeah.
we often do it from a democratic perspective. We ask them, how do you feel? What do you think should happen? What do you think the little tiny rules should be? You tell us, and
Mm,
put it back on them and get them to tell us what they think. Amazing what happens. It's like,
yeah,
oh yeah, you're
true.
right. We should
If
have.
all of a sudden it's their idea, then it's so much better than if it's our idea. Hey,
Yeah, they have buy-in. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Anyway, so I think that's probably a good place to leave it today because we'll probably end up solving
Okay,
all the world's problems.
that is true. That's true. That's for another day.
Yeah, absolutely. It was lovely speaking with you, and thank you very much for joining me this morning.
Yes, thank you so much. If people are interested in connecting with me, I have a website called livearebellife.com. I also have a Facebook community, Midlife Rebel Women, only for women in midlife, no men. Sorry, men, if you are listening, but it's only for women. I also have a newsletter you can get on my website as a free newsletter full of all sorts of really awesome kind of funny stories and mindset stuff and book recommendations and journal prompts. And that comes out every Thursday. And I offer a bunch of different services from one on one coaching to group coaching to a whole bunch of different things. So I'm always open for a conversation or anything at any time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll put all those links in the show notes anyway, so everyone can just click away. So
Awesome.
much easier. But yeah, that's awesome. Lovely chatting to you.
Yeah. Great talking to you. Thanks and have a great day.
As we wrap up another episode here at Life Begins at Midlife, we want to take a moment to extend a heartfelt thank you to our sponsor, Jackie Bourne from Purpose Unleashed. Jackie's commitment to empowering individuals on their journey of self-discovery and transformation truly aligns with the spirit of our show. Whether you're navigating the challenges of midlife, seeking clarity on your next steps, or simply looking to live a more fulfilled life, Purpose Unleashed offers the guidance, tools, and support you need to turn your aspirations into reality. For those of you feeling stuck or at a crossroads, remember, it's never too late to redefine your path and embrace the life you've always dreamed of. Visit Purpose Unleashed website to discover how you can start your transformative journey today. Let Jackie be your guide to a more vibrant, purpose-driven life. You can find this link to the website in the show notes below. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in and sharing your time with us. Remember, every day is a new opportunity to grow, to love, and to make a difference. Until next time, keep striving, keep dreaming, and keep listening.